What is going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Happy Friday. This is Chris, the Dice Degen, on Casino Gaming TV, bringing you the daily wager for Friday, March 31st. Last day in March. Hopefully everyone had a good March, and hopefully everyone will have a good Friday and a good weekend and all that good stuff. Lots of sports this weekend. MLB opening day was yesterday. I'm wearing my Phillies. Shut up. Sorry, my texts are coming in way too hot. Let me turn that off real quick. There we go. All right, hopefully you guys can hear me now. Anyway, what are we talking about today? We are going to be talking about sports betting systems. All right, I'm going to go over some of those in a little bit. But as always, what to expect on this show. I'm going to stop with this slide Monday, but we're going to do sports betting for dummies. We're going to continue that series for a while and get you guys well versed in all things betting stories, things along those lines. I will be sure to share with you any breaking news in the sports world, what's buzzing in sports. Daily picks are starting tomorrow, all right? And bankroll builder series, challenges, things along those lines. They are all starting very, very soon, so get excited for that. And like I said, picks start tomorrow, all right? So April 1st, tomorrow is a Saturday. I will be posting picks in the morning in Discord. So if you guys aren't in the Discord already, pop over to Casino Gaming TV and get into the Discord so you guys don't miss anything, all right? The picks are going to go tomorrow. Please do keep in mind, I will be posting picks. I may post, depending on the day, I may post some of them at one time and other ones at other times. Really just depends on lineups, all right? For soccer, depends on lineups. For baseball, things along those lines. So there may be some string posts in there, so just keep that in mind. But picks will start tomorrow, all right? You had me on mute. Well, you didn't miss much. I was just talking a little bit. And picks start tomorrow, all right? So that's the main thing that I've said so far. If you need to recap, there you go. Pick start tomorrow. Boom. All right. And always, as a reminder, up on the screen from my legal counsel. There it is. All right. Here we go. Sports betting strategies. All right. You may think there's no strategy involved with sports betting. You'd be wrong. All right. Any game that you play in the casino has strategies involved. You may not play a strategy, but there are strategies involved. Sports betting is no different. Sports betting has strategies associated with it, and I'm going to explain a few of them to you today, and then I'm going to tell you what the best strategy for sports betting is. All right, so the best overall sports betting strategy is coming at the end. All right, the best one, I promise. Arbitrage betting. These are in no particular order either. These are kind of just up there, and I'm just going to talk through them and show you guys what each sports bet is. But arbitrage betting, also known as ARB, is when you make two bets on the same event covering both outcomes of a game. And basically your goal there is to secure profit no matter what happens on the game. And the reason why you can actually do this is because sportsbooks set their odds independently of each other, and the lines may not be as up to date on one book as they are on another book, or lines are moving drastically on one book but not on another book. So, as I've told you guys before, Vegas sets the lines, and then each individual sports book moves their lines accordingly to the bets placed. So, this example here, you'd be betting on two separate sports books, and I'm going to show you an example of what this looks like. So, let's say you have the Yankees on the money line on DraftKings at plus 120. And the Red Sox are minus 105 on FanDuel. So for the same exact game, right, you can bet $300 on the Yankees to win at plus 120. You could put $338 on the Red Sox at minus 105. And either way, regardless of what happens in the game, whoever wins, you still win almost $22. All right, that's the way the lines work. If you want to break it down to like a $10 or a $100 bet, if that's easier to understand, the $100 bet on the Yankees would pay you $120. You'd have to risk 105 on the Red Sox to win 100, but realistically, you'd be putting, let's say, like $115 on the Red Sox. So you'd win about $5 or $10 either way. Now, the thing with arbitrage betting is you usually have to place a large wager in order for it to actually make sense. In this example, right, you have $300 being placed two different times to win $22. The $100 example doesn't really make sense because you're going to win like $5 either way. If you're cool with that, then you can do it. This is why it's also important to have multiple books and do line shopping and things like that. I have done this in the past. I will tell you it's time intensive to find the lines. There are sites that you can use to compare lines that are virtually real time, but by the time some of those sites update, the sports books also update. So if you are a degen like me and you sometimes just sit with 3 sports books open on the computer waiting for something to happen, you can definitely make money this way. Just know that you're going to have to risk larger chunks of money in order to actually profit anything. So it's just one example. I don't really recommend it. It takes a lot of time, and it's not really fun to me. It's a guaranteed profit, but it's not really fun in my opinion. But if you like that, go for it. Betting heavy favorites and backing heavy favorites. This is something that a lot of new sports bettors do. That's one of the dumbest things you can do. All right, it's exactly what it is. You bet on the heavy favorite. You risk more to win a lot less, all right? And as you guys know, favorites don't always win. Take Purdue playing Fairleigh Dickinson, for example. 23-point favorites. They were like minus 4,000 on the money line. If you're betting them, you're betting $4,000 to win 100. You got to win 40 bets to cover that loss, all right? And it happened. So this is something that a lot of new bettors do, and I would highly advise against it. Just betting heavy favorites. They don't always win. More often than not, they actually lose, believe it or not. So don't fall into this trap of just betting heavy favorites thinking it's a guarantee for them to win, okay? And in order to be profitable here, you have to have a super, super high percentage win rate. So if you are betting, let's say you're betting like even 800 on these bets, you're probably still in the negative, depending on what the lines are that you're taking. But let's say you bet on something that's minus 500, you put 500 to win 100. In order to win that money back, you're going to have to win your next 5 bets to break even. So on that example, you'd have to go 5 for 6 just to break even. And even then, you still probably, you wouldn't even really break even at that point because of the house edges associated with the bets, also called the commission on the bets. But you'd have to win at least 5 to be back to even, 6 to become profitable. So in order to win $100, you'd have to win 6 out of those 7 bets. Again, that's assuming you win every single one, and that's assuming that the line was minus 500. If you take a line at minus 1,000, you're going to have to win 11 of 12 of your next bets in order to just recoup and profit slightly. All right, so stay away from this. All right, a lot of beginners do it, and it's a bad idea. You'll learn very, very quickly if you do this that it doesn't work too well. Okay. Hedging. So I know a lot of you guys are craps fans and other casino game fans, and you might be against hedging on like the craps table. Personally, I'm not a big hedger on the craps table, but hedging in sports betting is actually a fairly good idea, especially if you have a big plus money wager. So for example, I'll give you an example. You're betting, well, let me just explain what hedging is. You're betting the opposite of what you originally bet, right? So last year, I bet the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. I put $100 on it at plus 4,000 odds. So the bet of $100 was going to pay me out $4,000 if the Eagles won the Super Bowl. Now, obviously that seems like a great payout because I only put up 100 to win 4,000. But the Eagles made the Super Bowl, obviously, which was great. But at that point, I could hedge out and bet the Chiefs and guarantee myself profit either way. So I did. I didn't hedge out to exactly get the same profit on either side, but like in that example, the Chiefs were plus 125 when the line closed on the Super Bowl. So if you bet $1,000 on the Chiefs, you're going to win back $1,250. So either way, you're profiting over $1,000 on that wager. It was a future. Obviously, I needed the Eagles to make the Super Bowl for that bet to even have a chance, but if you can hedge out of a bet, it's usually a good idea, especially if you replace some of these like ridiculous same game parlays and some of these like 5 and 6 leg parlays. If you cash 5 of the 6 legs, you might as well hedge out on the 6th leg just to ensure profit either way. If you're super confident, you don't have to, but I would recommend it. You guarantee yourself profit. Who doesn't like profit? And let's see. I know other bettors that say only to bet the huge favorites. Yeah, there's a lot of them. And if you look at their records, they have winning records. And there's a reason why they have winning records, because the favorites do win. The problem is, are they profitable? There was a guy on Twitter, I'm not going to name his name, but he was one of these people who strictly bet on heavy favorites. I think the lowest line I ever saw him take was like minus 250. Every other single bet was over that. The guy had a new account on Twitter every month because he wasn't profitable for the month, let alone for the year. The reason being is, like I said, one bet loss, you have to win a pretty good amount of bets in order to actually make that money back. So that's why a lot of those people, they're not profitable long term. Exactly, because you have to have an incredibly high win rate. I mean, take the guy, I gave the example the other day, but take the guy who bet $1.4 million on the Chargers when they were playing the Jaguars, right? It was like $1.4 million to win $10,000. The guy lost. The Jaguars came back and won that game. That guy actually bet $1.4 million to win $10,000. It's insanity. You think, oh, that's an absolute lock. It's a free $10K. No, not even close. And now he lost $1.4 million. So how many bets does he have to win to make that money back? Well, you can do the math. Anyway, let's see. Middling. All right, so middling is very similar to arbitrage betting, but it happens more on the live line. So arbitrage is usually pregame when you're betting on those things. Middling, you're betting one outcome, and then you're going to bet another outcome with a line move and hoping to hit the actual middle of the bets. So again, similar to hedging, similar to arbitrage, but the goal is to actually win both bets. And in order to do this successfully, you have to be very active on the live lines when games are going on. So for example, right, let's say you take, I'm just going to pull the Sixers and the Celtics as an example, right? Let's say the Celtics are 3-point favorites to start the game, and you like the Celtics pregame at 3.5 or 3.5, whatever. I'll set it at 3.5 so there's no pushing. All right, 3.5. Celtics are 3.5-point favorites. Now, you bet the Celtics at 3.5. Let's say they get out to a nice early lead, right? Let's say they're up 10, 12 points early on. The live line on that game might have the Sixers at like +7. Okay? So you bet the Sixers at +7, hoping that you get a result where the Celtics win by 4, 5, or 6 points. This one's a small example, but there's examples where you can actually middle with a pretty big margin in there. And when that happens, you win both bets because you originally bet the Celtics to win by 3.5 or more points, which if they win by 5, they would win by 3.5. And you took the Sixers at +7, which is less than the 7 points that you're spotting. So you would win both bets. That's what middling is. The downside to middling is that if you don't win, you're going to be losing whatever the commission is on the bet. So if it's like a -110 bet, you're going to be losing, that 10% of your bet. Again, middling, you have to be very, very active on the live lines. It's not easy to do, but there is value there. If I'm like sitting at home and stuff, I'll do it, especially if I bet on a spread and I see a team get out to an early jump. Obviously, I like my pick originally, but I may try to middle and see if I can get that team to come back. NBA is a great example of that because if a team's up pretty big in like the fourth quarter, they usually rest players and they'll take them out. And the losing team, you will leave their starters in a little bit longer, and that gap usually closes. Not all the time, but it does. So middling could be a good idea there. But that's what middling is. You're trying to win both wagers. The anti-public bettor, also known as fading the public. This is somebody who just bets against whatever the public is doing. So sportsbooks want roughly the same amount of action on both sides of a bet. Why? Well, they avoid a big beating if the outcome occurs where most of the people are winning the bet, right? So if you have a lot of money coming in on one side, that line's going to have to move in order for the sportsbook to entice people to bet on the other side, right? So public bet a lot of favorites, all right? A lot of beginning sports bettors bet a ton of favorites. I'd still bet favorites. I bet a lot of underdogs as well, but a majority of public bets will always be on the favorite, all right? That's just how it is. And I actually love when public bets come in on the favorites and when heavy bets come in the favorites, because it usually moves the line down in my favor and I can hammer the line. And that's what you typically consider sharp bettors. I'm not considering myself a sharp, all right? But that's what a lot of successful sports bettors do, and that's what some of the biggest bettors in the world do. All right, so the way that actually that works is, let's say, again, that Sixers Celtics game. Let's say there's like $10 million that comes in on the Celtics to win that game. Well, the sportsbook's going to have to move that line because if the Celtics win, they have to pay out all the winning bets. So they're going to move that line to get less people to bet who are coming in after that big money's come in. They're going to have to move the line to get less people to bet on the Celtics and more people to bet on the Sixers so they have that equal balance where they win on both sides. All right, and you have to pay attention to line movements. There's sites that you can use to go into line movements, and I'll do an episode maybe next week where I'll show you the website and I'll show you exactly how to read line movements. I'm very, very involved in that with the NFL. I have that website open virtually all day long, watching the lines move and seeing if I can get some sort of value. But, yeah, I see a couple questions, so I'm going to address these real quick. That's your brother-in-law betting a heavy favorite to win a little. Anthony, you can answer me if he's been profitable with that. I've seen a lot of people try it. It usually doesn't play out too well for them, but maybe your brother is profitable. I don't know. Isn't it the sharps that really move the line, not the public? So generally speaking, yes, the sharps are the ones that move lines. However, the public can move lines depending on how much money comes in on a specific bet. Generally speaking, the public are not the ones moving the lines, but most people are not sharps, okay? So the thing with the public, right, let's say I don't know, there's 6 people watching plus me, call it 7 of us. We see a line that we want to go hammer, and let's say, collectively we have like 10 million to throw on the game, right? So let's say the 7 of us go place bets worth $10 million on whatever team we're betting on. We're not sharps. We may seem like sharps because we're throwing that much money down, but the line's going to have to move a little bit because there's so much money pouring in on the one team. Now, if there is a lot of money on the other side already, the line may not move, but the line's going to move a little bit at least half a point, if not a full point, to entice other people to bet on the opposite side again. So the sportsbooks have the middling possibility there where, they're not going to get hammered on one side or the other side. And that's why the sportsbooks always do win. So, yeah. Same thing can happen at smaller games when you bet early mornings on a late afternoon game and the line shifts because of heavy betting towards the game time. I've done it, Mark. Yeah, great example, right? So basketball's a good one. Football's another good one, right? You'll see me, and I told you guys I'm posting picks starting soon. But when NFL season comes around, I'm not going to give you – I will give you plays on Sunday, on NFL Sunday when, majority of the games are. But I may post a pick on Tuesday because there's a line that I like so much and I think it's going to move by the time we get to Sunday. All right? So that can definitely happen. And then I had Team A in an early parlay and Team B in a late parlay and got lucky and hit both. Well, there you go. Nice. But the anti-public betting idea is to just fade whatever the public is betting. So there's websites where you can see how much money's coming in on a game and where the public is on said game. The anti-public thing is you just bet the opposite of that. And it's typically just betting the underdog because a lot of the time the public is on the favorite. Just not always the case, but a lot of the case. The zigzag theory. So this is an interesting one. I've used it before. I don't typically use it very often, but I have used it in the past. So it's used in series style sports. So you're not going to be using this in necessarily. You can, but it's a little bit harder to use because the same two teams aren't playing. But the way this works is there's two main concepts. There's the home team advantage, and then the team coming off a loss typically plays harder, and they statistically have a slightly better chance of winning. That's why in series games it's important, more or less. Not like in an NFL regular season game, but let's say you're talking about like the NBA playoffs, you're talking about the MLB playoffs, you're talking about the NHL playoffs, where they have 5 games, 2 at home, 2 away, and then comes back home for the next game. Or in like a 7-game series, you go 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, right? So the way this system or theory works is that if the home team loses a game, right? So let's say, again, I'll use the Celtics and the Sixers as an example. Let's say 2 games were played in Boston, right? And let's say the Sixers won the first game, they lost the second game, but now they're coming back home to play game 3. Coming off the loss and then being at home, you would think that, they're going to play a little bit harder. They have the home crowd behind them, things like that. So that's where the zigzag theory comes into play. Basically, you're betting on the team that lost last but is now playing at home. Same theory would apply with that example where, let's say the Sixers won the first game, but the Celtics are playing at home in the second game. Coming off that loss, playing at home, you would think they have at least a little bit more incentive to win. Not that that's really something that you should bet on as incentive because it's pro sports. There's no real incentives on a lot of those things. But that's the zigzag theory. The martingale. All right. Now we're getting into... So all these theories that I've mentioned are viable theories. The martingales and the ones that are coming up, I would stay away from for the most part. But again, it's your money. You can bet it how you want. I'm not going to tell you how to bet your money, but the martingale is the same as it is in any other casino game. You double your bet after you lose. All right, so let's say you bet $100 on, I don't know. Let's say you bet $100 on a team and they lose. Your next bet is going to be $200, right? Let's say they lose. Your next bet's $400. You're just doubling your bet. There's a couple problems with this, all right? One, a bad losing streak, you're going to win or you're going to lose lots of money. The other couple things that play in more than even a bad losing streak is, one, sportsbooks have limits. And if they see you start pouring money in like that, you may get limited at a sportsbook, okay? Degen has been limited at sportsbooks before. Not for the amount of money coming in, but for the streaks that I went on betting on. It was Israeli soccer. I got... Basically, the sportsbook they limited me to the point where I can only bet like $25 on the game. Yes, I said Israeli soccer. If you want to hear more about that, you can let me know. But yeah, so I was doing really, really well betting Israeli soccer, and I was hammering lines because the lines weren't right, and I actually was following it at the time, and I got limited to the point where I could only bet $25 on a game. Before that, I was betting a couple hundred on a game. And then now if I log into the sportsbook, you'll see like when I go to type in my bet, it'll say wager limit exceeded, and it'll tell you what the wager limit is. So like I could bet it's like $25 and like 35 cents or something like that. Only on that though. On other things, I can bet whatever I want. But on that specific league, I can't bet more than that on it. So the other thing with the martingale in casino games versus sports betting is that in casino games, you're typically playing a martingale on like even money bets or very, very low house edge bets. Sportsbooks are different, all right? There is no real even bet. I mean, they exist at plus 100, but most of the time you're going to be betting on like a minus 110, maybe minus 108, depending what the book is. So there's that commission there of that 10 cents that is actually going to mess up your martingale to the point where you're going to have to go actually a little bit higher than two times. Now, if you're betting on underdogs, it's a different story because you're getting plus money at that point. But if you're betting on favorites with a martingale, you got to be careful because the even money bets in sports betting, there's not very many of them. The house always has that commission. It's typically between 6 to like 15 cents on the bet. So keep that in mind. It's not a true martingale. You actually have to go up a little bit higher than 2x. And if you don't, when you finally hit, you may not recoup the amount you actually bet. In small bets, it doesn't seem like a lot, right? So if you're starting with, I'm going to use minus 110 as an example, all right? Because it makes math really easy. Let's say you start with a $100 bet. Well, you're actually risking 110 to win the 100, right? So your next bet is going to be $220, assuming you lose the first bet. So you're doubling that bet to win $200, okay? So at that point, you're not winning 100 back. You're only winning 90 back because you lost 110 on the first bet. That's where the commission comes into play. And as you get to higher and higher bets, that commission gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay? That's the martingale. I see. A couple things. That's why you got limited. You were the only one betting. That's true. Again, I told you guys I bet soccer a lot and I bet on third world countries a lot. And it's very, very easy for them to, see who's doing what and who's betting on it. And then when you have a consistent streak like that I was having, I mean, I'm telling you, I won in an entire season. I mean, I think I lost. My hit rate was like over 90% on bets. And finally, they limited me towards the end of that season because I was just really probably the only one betting on it, like you said. And, the book was getting smacked around. Now, I'm not betting for thousands on those leagues, but, the sports book is entitled to limit you at any time. Also, there's limit wagers at sports books, just like there is at regular casino games. Question, taking two teams from the same city, New York, Chicago, Cali, rare for both teams to win if one is on the road, like the point of home team off loss. Yeah, I mean, some people use that as a metric in order to place their bets with teams from the same city. If that's something you like, it's going to kind of get us into like trend betting. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, you're looking for you're looking for something there that may not be there. So just keep that in mind. Direct correlation between martingale and Vegas suicide. Vegas hotel windows bolted closed. That's true. There is. Because the martingale, you're doubling. If you lose 10 bets in a row, you're losing a lot of money, and your stakes are getting higher and higher and higher. You could blow through an entire bank account pretty quickly, especially if you lose a couple bets in a row. So I would highly advise against any type of martingaling on any type of betting, whether it be craps, blackjack, roulette, anything like that. The thing is, if you're going to do the martingale, you have to have a stop point, all right? You can't just keep going and going and going. And don't let the balance in your account be your stop point. You need a stop point less than whatever your balance is, and preferably you just don't do it. Professionals may do it, but again, when you're sports betting, you got to remember that commission that comes into play. On blackjack, it's a little different. On roulette, it's a little bit different. But that commission on sports betting is tough, especially when you're betting favorites, because you're also going to be giving away points if you're betting spreads and things like that. All right, so the negative progression, or the D'Alembert, is basically a moderate level martingale, or also known as a ladder. So you're incrementally raising your bets by equal units after a loss and then going down to the previous level on a win, right? So you go up the ladder, you try to come back down the ladder. The problem is once you get up on the ladder and if you fall off that ladder, it's going to hurt. Sometimes it's hard to get back down the ladder. Again, those commissions add up over time. So be mindful of that. I would advise against negative progressions. This is why I have that unit system that I've talked about, and I'm going to talk about it again later. This is why I use a unit system, because it allows me to place bets, but I'm not progressively increasing the amount of bets I place. We'll go over my unit system again, though. Morning, Chris. Hey, all question. If you had to choose between only craps of sports, if you had to choose between only craps of a sports bet, which one would it be? Can you clarify that? What do you mean? Like, if I had to choose between what? Like my favorite sports bet in general? If I had to choose between, like, if I had to relate craps to sports betting, clarify that for me, please, and I will answer it. Um, the La Boucher system. All right, so this is like a split martingale, and it's based on a system of numbers. Basically, you're taking your two most outside numbers, and that's what you add them together, and that's going to be your bet. And then you go towards the middle on wins, and you add units on losses. So, for example, if you take the 1-1-2-2-1-1 system, that's the typical like base starting La Boucher system. You add your two most outside numbers. So your two most outside numbers are 1 and 1, which would mean your unit stake on the bet is going to be 2 units. Okay, so you're putting 2 units together, right? And you're placing that bet. If you lose that bet, you're adding numbers to the outside and coming back towards the middle. If you would win that bet, you're adding the next numbers in. So that's 1 and 1. It's still, again, 2. And if you win that bet, then you're going up to 4 units. That's a La Boucher system. If you guys are interested, you can learn more about it. I've never done this on sports betting, but if you want to do it, you can. I don't know much about sports, but I've given some thought. Dancing isn't meant to be on a ladder. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Very true. Friends don't let friends martingale. All right. Oh, I get what you're saying. If I had to pick between craps and sports betting, I'm going to pick sports betting every single day of the week, every single day of the year, every single year of my life. I love craps. A lot of fun. Sports betting, I consider myself good at sports betting, so I like sports betting. I use sports betting to fund my overall gambling bankroll. So for those of you guys who don't know, right, I have a craps channel, obviously, and I play craps a lot. I also play blackjack. I also play roulette. I also play baccarat. I play a lot of different games. But the sports betting bankroll is for sports betting, and some of it goes into my actual gambling bankroll. But I would pick sports all day long. Love craps, don't get me wrong, but I am picking sports every single day of the week. You can ask the guys. When we go to like Atlantic City or when we're in Vegas and stuff, I'll be messing around on the craps table. You know, I lose $500, whatever, and or I win, great. But if I lose, they'll talk like they'll be like, oh, like, you know, that sucks. We just lost. And I'm sitting here like, oh no, I got, you know, a couple thousand to go pull out of the sports book real quick because they owe me money for my tickets. So I bet, and then I'll go play craps, and then I'll go back to the sports book to cash or take the walk of shame if I lose. But yeah, you can ask any one of the guys who have played with me before. There's sports bets pending every single time I'm at the casino. Just me, degen. Sports bets are the best bet in the casino. You're kind of an expert already when you watch every week. Yeah. See, so that's a good point, right? So I said yesterday on my thing with some tips, right? And research was one of them. Watching games is technically doing research. You don't have to sit here and look at every single stat or every single aspect of a game. If you watch games, that's considered research. You can learn a lot about the team. You can learn a lot about what they do, and then that can go into your betting decisions. So, yeah, watching is just as good as doing a lot of research. Fun or profitable? Profitable is always a choice, 100%. And that's me to a T, right? Craps is fun. Is it profitable? Sometimes yes, sometimes no, right? Sports betting, is it profitable? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Historically, long-term speaking, it's profitable. Okay? But I like to profit more than I like to have fun, and I'm very happy when I'm doing both, having fun and profiting. But I'm also having fun when I'm profiting, right? So that's a thing you have to keep in mind, is that when I'm placing these sports bets, I'm usually watching the games and I'm having a good time watching them. I'm usually with people watching them or doing something. And even Israeli soccer, don't worry, I have streams that I watch for that kind of stuff. Just knocked my mic over. Anyway, profitable, better than fun. Both of them, even better. You like my answer, always honest and straight up. That's me. I'll give it to you straight. Give it to you like it is. If I liked craps better, I'd tell you. I love craps, but I love me sports betting even more. How good are my picks percentage wise? Winning percentage, over loss percentage. So, as an overall number, all right, I've been sports betting since I was, well, I can't say how long I've been sports betting, technically speaking, because it was before I turned 21. But I've been sports betting for, I just said it. I've been sports betting for like 7 years, 8 years now, a little over 7 years. In the beginning, I was trying to figure out like kind of what to do. I was very novice to sports betting. Didn't know what I was doing. So my win percentage was not very good at that time, and I lost. But ever since I started doing more research and more, systems, like I have systems or coded models and stuff for different things, I've gotten better. I also base it down to the sport itself, right? So I have numbers for sports specifically. So NFL, I have my stats for NBA, MLB, soccer, tennis, hockey. Every sport that I bet on, I have it. So to get back to your actual question, how good are my picks percentage-wise? Well, I don't actually give them out until tomorrow, but historically speaking, over those 7 to 8 years, I've been hitting at about a 68% clip, which is pretty good over that amount of years. Now, there's times where that goes lower, goes a little bit higher, depends what it is. And the reason why I break down the sports and the reason why I only bet on certain sports is because I know I'm better at certain sports than I am at others, right? So that 68% that I'm hitting at could be broken down into, let's say NFL and soccer are above that, but then MLB, NBA are way below that, right? So that's where that number would come from. But yeah, 68% in my sports betting career. So that's why it's pretty good. The number may seem a little bit high if you ask some people. If anybody tells you that they have a win percentage over 80%, don't believe them. But I'm very selective now with my picks. I don't bet on just anything. So you'll see when I start posting my picks in Discord, you'll see that I may only post 2 or 3 picks a day. There's days where I may not even post a pick. I don't like anything enough to actually bet on it. I won't bet on it. So it comes down to discipline with that as well. But my success rate's been pretty good over these years. Now that the transfer portal's up, you guys watch basketball to help the NCAA tourney. Yeah, that's true. What's up, Jim? How are you? Yeah, drop a like if you're watching. Drop a like. Do your boy a favor. All right. Trend betting. This is another thing. I would stay away from this, personally speaking. I talked about it a little bit yesterday, but it's betting on a trend you observe. The trend may not actually be there. You just observe it, or you think you see it, so be careful with that kind of stuff. You can bet on winning teams, losing teams, and it's something that you're specifically looking for. There may not be an actual trend that is there, just something that you think is there. And again, it can be dangerous if you think you see it there. Pro sports don't follow many trends. If they did, somebody would have figured it out already, and that would be the best-selling sports betting system out there. Okay? So don't bet on winning teams thinking that they're not going to lose because they continue to win. Same thing is true. Don't bet on losing teams thinking that they're due to win. They're not. All right, it's professional sports. Anybody can win on any given day. Even, again, I'm going to use the Purdue example. People think that that Purdue is just, it was a no-brainer because they're a 1 seed playing a 16 seed. That line was ridiculous. I was on Fairleigh Dickinson on the spread. Didn't take on the money line, but I said in a show that I did here on Casino Gaming TV with Ian before the tournament started, I said Purdue was the softest 1 seed. I had them out of my bracket in the second round, not even questioning that. And I also said that I wouldn't be shocked if they lost in the first round. I had Fairleigh Dickinson on the spread. I said during the show I was going to take every team on the spread against Purdue. They're terrible. Anyway, no need to talk about me. Another thing, the Kelly criterion. All right, this is a way that you can use to find value. It's math related, so if you don't like math, then close your eyes, close your ears for a second. But you're looking for bets that you should find value or you could potentially find value in. I do have the Kelly criterion built into a lot of my models. I don't base my picks off of the Kelly criterion, but it is a factor for me. If you're interested in the formula, there it is. When I show you my models and I show you how to code a model, we can get more into the Kelly criterion. I can do a whole episode. If you're interested on the Kelly criterion, it's going to be a very math-heavy episode. I do like math, though, so for me, it's not anything, uncommon. But if you don't like math, you're not going to like the Kelly criterion. So just put that up there. Craps, I have bottles of booze top shelf longer than 8 years. Yeah, well, I've only been on the planet for so. Ooh, hello. There we go. I'm back. Rookie mistake. And the best strategy for sports betting. There isn't one. I told you I was going to tell you what it was. There isn't one. All right. It's going to be whatever you want to do and how you, how you bet and how you win. That is where your best strategy is going to be. You have to kind of figure that out as you go. I can tell you solely using any one of the systems or strategies or theories that I mentioned today is not going to make you have the best strategy. A mix of them may. And this is why I use my models and I use other things to make my picks, because I have multiple strategies built into each model. Now, the model itself isn't based off of one individual thing. Like I said, I use the Kelly criterion, but that's not the main basis for my picks. All right. So if you factor in a couple of those, it could be profitable. The thing is, you have to figure out what you're looking for there. All right. So there is no best strategy. Dr. S, I love that. No one puts baby in a corner. Great reference there. Newbie question. What's the min to make a bet on, say, basketball? Well, it comes down to the sports book you're using. If you're using one of these online books like a FanDuel, DraftKings, Caesars, whatever, you could bet a couple pennies on it. There's no real limit on it. Now, if you're betting with a local bookie, there may be like minimum bets you can make, but it's not like a craps table or like really any casino game where you have to put X amount of dollars down. Sports betting, you can literally put $1 on a game. You can put $5 on a game. You can put 3 cents on a game. You can put literally whatever you want on the game, as long as it's above zero. So hopefully that answers your question. But yeah, you can bet on whatever you want. Now I'm going to switch over here to this view, and I'm going to tell you again about my betting strategy that I use. Again, each sport is a little bit different strategy-wise with what I use, but I have models and research that goes into the picks. But the main thing with the strategies is, again, bankroll management using units. All right. I told you guys in the previous couple episodes, I'm going to say it again because I'm a firm believer in this, and this is why I've been able to be profitable long-term doing sports betting. All right. You have to use units. You have to. If you don't use units, you're out of your mind and you want to be profitable. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to tell it to you how it is. You're out of your mind if you're not going to use units. The reason why is streaks happen in sports betting. Okay, they do. And again, with the martingale and things like that, if you start doing things like that and you get on a cold streak, you're going to rip through your entire bankroll. The units, again, I told you, I divide mine by 100. All right, so if my bankroll is $100, I divide it by 100. Each unit is $1. Okay. I will risk no more than 5, maybe up to 8 units per day, which that would, if I'm risking 8 units, it's probably about 4 or 5 plays at that point. That means that I have a lot of bullets in the chamber to make bets and then make the money back if I do go on a cold streak. This is why units are important, all right? Personally speaking, again, I don't risk that many units per day because I've gotten very selective on my plays throughout my betting. I'm going to call it a career. It's not really a career, but throughout my experience doing it. I have learned what I'm good at. I have learned what I'm not good at, but I learned that units keep you afloat in those bad times. And then again, you can utilize them when you start winning more, because when you start winning more, you can make your units bigger. Now, I'm not saying that because you're on a hot streak, you start throwing around a lot of units. What I'm saying is, let's say that bankroll's $100 and I'm dividing by 100, my unit's $1. At the end of the month, let's say I've won $50 that month, I can adjust my units after that month. So now I have $150 in the bankroll. I'm going to divide by 100 again, but now my unit's $1.5 or $1.50 per unit instead of that dollar, which again, if I'm continuing to win, it's going to add up more and more. Let's say I get up to $500. Well, now my units are going to be $5 per unit, not that $1 or that $1.50. So that's why I'm saying units are important, and they will scale with you. Don't scale them too quickly, all right? Don't get cocky thinking that, you had a good week and now you can bump your units up very quickly. Don't do that, all right? But after a month, after a couple months, you can start scaling your bankroll again, all right? Same thing when you're losing, right? If you're losing a lot, you can start to drop down your units. If your dollar is not getting you anywhere, right? And I'm using dollars as an example, all right? My bankroll's not $100. I'll tell you that right now. It's far bigger than that. But for ease of math purposes, you could drop that down and just bet 50 cents. Turn your unit into 50 cents where now you have, let's say, 200 bullets in the chamber instead of $1. All right? So, I like your unit analysis. Is it true the VIG is 10% on all wagers? Generally speaking, yes. To answer the question, is it true? Yes. Is it always true? No. It depends on the sports book. I'm gonna talk through this. Let me move my mic out of the way. I'm gonna talk through this real quick, and then that's in the way. You can see that. There we go. All right, mic's out of the way. I'm gonna pull up a sports book right now, and I'll show you why it's technically not always 10%. All right, let me log into a sports book real quick though on the computer. I'm gonna pull up FanDuel because FanDuel is a good example of it not being always 10%. All right, let me share my screen here. And I saw your question. I will get to it in a minute. All right, FanDuel Sportsbook. All right, I'm not going to log into my account, but I can pull up the Sportsbook without logging into my account. And here is why it's not always 10%. It depends on the book. That's the short and sweet of it. Here you go. All right, here's a perfect example of that 10% VIG or commission for the sports book. All right. Why is this 10%? Well, in order to win $100 on this bet, you're going to have to bet 110, right? So I put that in there. That 110 is going to win you 100. There's your commission. However, right, I'm going to take this bet off, and you take a look at the Magic and the Wizards down here. See how it's different? It's not minus 110. It's minus 108 and minus 112. There on this one, you're going to have 8%. Here, you're going to have 12%. So it kind of depends on what the actual line is itself. And that's where those lines come into play. So here is a good example of that 10%. But again, not always going to be 10% because here it's 8, here it's 12. If you scroll down, you'll see it's generally 10%, but at times it may be 12, it may be 8. They're shifting. The average of 12 and 8 is still 10 though. Right? So average would be 10, but depending what you bet, you may have to pay a little bit more or a little bit less. Just depends on what it is. This is a good point with that, right? They sometimes adjust the VIG rather than move the line. That's a very good point. So when I was talking earlier about the public bets coming in on that, that's a good example of where the VIG may change a little bit and not necessarily the line. Let me go back to this question here. What is my pick on the Raptors and the Sixers tonight? It's a good question. I said it before. I don't really bet baseball. See, there you go. I don't bet basketball on spreads very often because I'm not very, very good at basketball on spreads. I'll be straight up with you. I don't bet them. I'll bet player props instead. I can run a model for you and tell you what the model likes on that game. Um, Let me quickly pull up some info here and I can tell you. Again, this is not betting advice. This is just more or less what I would like, what I would think would happen here. Again, not entirely sure. The Sixers are at home. I think the other problem with basketball is injuries. All right. The reason I don't like the NBA also is because of injuries, and they announce them super, super late. There's times where the game starts and then you get the notification this player's out of the game because they didn't come out in the announcements. That's why I don't like basketball a ton. Um, so to answer your question, who do I like in that game? I like nobody. I'm sorry. I don't. I ran a quick model on my phone. There's no edge there. The line is right about where it is. So sorry, I don't like either thing there. Again, this is me being selective. I'm not going to give it out. If you want me to give you a pick, I'm going to give you the Sixers, but I don't love the Sixers tonight. Again, Joel Embiid should be back. He played the other night. I don't know how he's fully doing. James Harden is questionable, so be mindful of that. The Raptors have a good team. I'm going to go with the Sixers at home, but again, I could be wrong. Probably am going to be wrong. It's basketball, not my sport. All right. Let me switch back to this screen here, and I'll go through some of the questions. Again, if you have a question, put a Q in front of it. I'm going to be ending the show soon, but if you have a question, throw a Q in front of it. Let's get specific. Will UConn win it all? I think it's theirs to lose for sure. I think UConn has looked the most solid out of any team, and they're making me eat my words. I didn't think they were going to do this well. I didn't think they were looking that good coming into the tournament. I thought they looked good, but not good enough to win it all for sure. But it's certainly their tournament to lose. I think they're absolutely on fire right now. I think they beat Miami this weekend, and I think if they beat Miami, I think they'll have an easier matchup. I think Miami's going to be a tougher matchup than the other half of the bracket, just because Miami puts up a ton of points and they're actually pretty good on defense. So, short answer, yes, UConn going to win it all. Just agreeing with the books at this point. The over, again, see, basketball, you won't see me give out many basketball picks other than player props because the NBA is so hard to bet on, at least to me, and it's not one of my more profitable sports. So I don't bet on it very often. Again, me being selective. But again, any final questions, put a Q in front of it. If not, I will go ahead and call the show there. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. And again, picks will start tomorrow. All right, picks in the Discord will be tomorrow. Again, they're going to be baseball props. There might be some NBA props. Again, baseball and NBA, I don't bet a ton of teams. I may occasionally throw a team in there, but I like props in both of those sports better. Soccer picks will be in there. If you don't like the soccer picks, I'm sorry. It's just what I'm very good at. So that's where I'm going with that. How much of a problem or adjustment did you have to make during the COVID protocol days? Yes, COVID was rough. I gave an example yesterday. I actually bet on table tennis most of COVID because it was very rough. But for the NBA and for other sports, it basically made me not even want to bet on these games because you got late notice of a COVID exposure or something along those lines, and a player would be ruled out. And then it's also hard to bet on teams and get actual numbers to put into a model. Because like I said, I use models for a lot of my plays that I've coded based on specific parameters that I'm looking for. Not necessarily is a team winning or losing. There's parameters that I've built into my model that makes me want to pick a team or not. Again, I'll go over those once we get the general sports betting knowledge out of the way. But there was a lot of adjustments made. I actually stopped betting on a lot of sports. Again, I was betting on mostly soccer because soccer was still being played. Again, I had to pay attention to lineups though, so my bets weren't in until maybe 2 minutes before the game started because I was waiting for the official lineup to be released. But I turned to table tennis and became pretty good at betting table tennis. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. You basically quit betting. I don't blame you. I quit betting on a lot of like major sports. Let's say basketball, wasn't touching it. NBA or NBA is basketball. MLB wasn't touching it. Hockey wasn't touching those. So virtually speaking, I quit betting on what I normally bet on. Soccer, for some parts, some leagues were still playing. For example, the Belarus Pro League. Yes, I said Belarus Pro League. They didn't stop. Their prime minister believed that vodka and steam baths were the way to cure COVID, so they didn't stop playing. So I dove down into the Belarus Pro League for soccer, and I was betting on that. I was betting again table tennis, things like that. But I was staying away from a lot of the American pro sports because of that reason. You're in California, so you have an offshore account that has huge VIGs. Yeah, offshore accounts do have huge VIGs, and they're also sometimes hard to withdraw money from. And depositing, usually not a problem. They don't give you any issues depositing. They'll gladly take your money, but withdrawing from the account is usually pretty tough. So, yeah, California. Maybe they'll pass some legislation soon. I don't think they will, but maybe they will. Maybe they'll get their act together. Hopefully they do, for your sake, Eric. Hopefully they get it. But, all right, I'll call the show here, guys. I appreciate you guys all watching. Again, hope everyone has a great Friday. Hope everyone has a great weekend. If you're not in the Discord already, get in the Discord. Picks will be posted tomorrow. Mind you, again, soccer, MLB, maybe some NBA. MLB and NBA are going to be mainly player prop type picks. And we'll get into that. More mainstream sports, if you're into that stuff, NFL is my bread and butter. One of my bread and butters anyway. So that obviously starts soon. Coming up in the fall and stuff. So those picks will be there a lot too. But for now, it's gonna be a lot of soccer, some MLB, and some basketball, mostly player props on the latter too. And I hope everyone has a great Friday. And I'll see you guys in Discord. If you have any questions, as always, please feel free. Put them in Discord. You can DM me personally in Discord, or you can shoot me an email, dicedegen@gmail.com. I'll happily answer any questions you have, guys. I hope you have a great weekend, and I will talk to you all soon. Peace.